Record. All right, awesome. We're back, guys. Welcome to the question and answer session about Facebook scaling in our awesome program that goes build, scale, done.
Wow.
Yes, awesomeness. Okay, so there you go. I hope this was awesome for you to get these sessions that we just had and kind of let that all sink in, apply some of the stuff that we showed you, and hopefully there's now more clarity, a little bit more clarity on scaling. So just kind of to take a pulse, what is going on, and where are your questions? What questions do you have, mainly on Facebook scaling, but also just generally speaking about Facebook ads? Anything goes now. We have another session for optimization later on in the afternoon. So once we get into like campaign management and sorting out what works and looking at the metrics and seeing what works in Facebook with the scaled campaigns and what doesn't work, then we talk a little bit more about that part. But to the scaling section in itself, what are your questions there? So here we go. There are some. So Martin is first up. Okay, so now let me see if I can manage them. So you guys keep track of the questions, right? And help me sort them out and help me see them properly.
Yes.
Okay, so here you go. Martin is the first one. Let's say I have 200,000 custom audience, a custom audience of 200,000 people of 10-second video view and 50,000 who watched 95% of the video. When targeting these audiences, either for retargeting or testing new product purpose, what objective would you use for the campaign? That's a really good question. So number one, let me point out the difference, right? A 10-second view audience on a video is always going to be a 10-second video view audience, right? So that is independent of how long the video is. It might be a half-an-hour video that you're putting there. It might be a 5-minute video. It might be a 15-second video. It's going to be 10 seconds. It's going to be 10 seconds, right? So they watch for 10 seconds. In other words, that has nothing to do with the length of the video. Whereas the 95% video view audience has a lot to do with the length of the video, right? So on a 20-second video or a 30-second video, getting a 95% viewer audience is not that difficult, and it might not be that much smaller than the 10-second video view audience. Whereas when you're using a longer video, then you get more of a difference between the number of people that are going to be in that audience on a 95%, 75%, 50%, and 25%. Those are the percentages that you can get on Facebook. And at the same time, so that shows a little bit about the quality differences, but also it has something to do with how well they're going to respond for retargeting when you retarget them directly, but also how well they're usable for lookalike audience purposes. All right. So now exactly to the question. So think about it. When you have a 95% audience, or when you have a 10-second video view audience, they have already done something, right? They have watched your video to a certain degree. So let's say the 95% is quite a bit more qualified than the 10-second, which your numbers seem to indicate that, right? Out of 200,000 people that watched the video for 10 seconds, 1/4 of that, only 50,000, watched all the way to 95 seconds. Okay, so the 95% audience is quite a bit more qualified there than the other one, and it's great that you have these large audiences already going. Okay, so now there are a couple of options. Number one, in general, when the audiences are large enough, well, you can always just by default, you say, okay, whatever I want to do with retargeting, I'm just going to optimize it for purchase, and that's going to be fine, and that's going to work really well. There are a couple of other options. So number one, I would try to get them to click a link. Okay, so you can set up a website conversion optimized campaign for them, but then choose link click optimization because you really want them to take the next step. Okay, so the next step would be link click, clicking the link. You can also, for these types of audiences, work with add to cart optimization. That works really well on them as well. So I would suggest that you try all three of those, and you may get different results from these. And what I would suggest is actually running these campaigns at relatively low budgets, $10, $20, to a 50,000 people audience, or even to a 200,000 people audience. You can spread them out a little bit and run one at $10 to purchase optimized, one at $10 to add to cart optimized, and one at $10 to link click optimized, and see how they do by comparison. The theory here being that they will likely get to different audiences, and you will see differences such as CPM differences and different cost per view content, per add to cart, depending on what you're optimizing them for. And when you're working with these smaller audiences, you can keep the budget smaller and then optimize for the different purposes, and that will give you a really good overall distribution and reach into those audiences. And that'll be the best way to go. So if you want to keep it simple, just go with purchase optimization and you're fine, and keep them running on Autobid, and you're going to be fine. If you want to get a little drill down a little bit deeper, just do as I said and use link click, add to cart, and purchase in some sort of combination of allocating budgets to these different optimization types.
Cool. All right, so Kim asks, after deleting the losing product in the first phase of testing, you mentioned to create a new campaign to test another creative of the winning product. Can't we test the new creative in the original campaign, i.e. create a new ad creative in place of the deleted product ad, thereby reducing the number of campaigns to manage?
Okay, yeah, that's not a bad idea. If you want to, so deleting, let's get clear on what we mean by deleting. I would generally not delete anything. I would just pause an ad in this case, right? So if you set it up with a Casa 6.2, you have two dark posts and you have two ads in each ad set that are pointing to one of the two posts. And so now let's say you have a winner, then you go ahead and you pause the ads that point to the losing product page post, right? So, okay, so at that point, you could add another ad into these same campaigns and just hook them up to these ad sets and run them in comparison with the winning product. You could do that. Now, what sometimes happens there is that the new ad doesn't necessarily get traction in competition with the winning product that already has some results get collected in that ad set. So in general, so you can try that and see if it gives you any good result, if you even get any distribution on that new ad set, on that new ad. But in general, I would not make changes on an existing ad set for testing new things. So whatever you do, leave what is working, running, and maybe pause the ad sets of the losing product. More likely than not, you don't even need to do anything to these campaigns as far as the ads are concerned, because the losing ads will most likely get less and less distribution if it's really losing badly. So what you do want to manage is on the ad set level, when you have a losing ad set. So that means where both posts on that ad set aren't performing according to your criteria of what you need for a return, right? So in that case, you want to pause that entire ad set and take it out of the equation, take it out of the race, and then thereby you lose distribution or impressions for both of the posts that are attached to that ad set. So usually on the ad level, you don't need to do much management at all, but on the ad set level, yes. And so because of all that, I generally don't like to do two things. I don't like to add new ad sets to existing campaigns. And I try to not necessarily touch budgets on existing campaigns, right? So instead of doing that, you just duplicate things. And duplication here means basically just a workflow. It doesn't necessarily mean that you're setting up exactly the same thing. You're just basically using what you have as a template. You duplicate, for example, you can duplicate ad sets into a new campaign and then switch out the ads that are hanging on these ad sets, right? That's one way to have a workflow of duplication that works quickly, okay? But so I would generally just set up, I wouldn't be afraid of having, many campaigns. What does that mean, many campaigns? I like to organize campaigns and keep campaigns kind of like self-contained. So I don't like to pack more ad sets into an existing campaign. And so what I do usually is I name my campaigns according to the 4 reserved name tags, right? I put them into the campaign name. So just to review them, they're VV, video view, website, WC for website conversion, and then DPA, if I put DPAs on RET, if I put retargeting ads. So I put always one of these 4 into my campaign names, and then I put the date at the end of the campaign, the date when the campaign is launched. That way, I have much better overview of what was launched when and how different campaigns that maybe even going to the same product because they're different CASA 6.2s in different phases of the product launching and scaling the product. And so, so I keep track of when campaigns were launched, when ad sets were launched, by putting the date into the campaign. And if you do it, if you follow my my model in the CASA 6.2 demo video of how I then automatically rename the ad sets and the ads, you notice that the campaign name actually populates into all of them, right? The campaign name is part of the ad set name, the way I do it, and then as well, the ad set name is part of the ad name, therefore the campaign name is also part of the ad set name. So if you follow that along, then the date that is put into the campaign name when you launch it will be populating onto all the names. So you can always, on all management levels, always see which asset was launched when and how that relates to the other assets that were launched at different times, at different dates. So that sounded felt a little bit complicated. It felt a little bit confusing in this explanation. But don't think of campaigns as something that should be kept to a minimum. It doesn't matter. You're going to launch so much stuff and so many different ad sets. It doesn't matter if the ad sets are in campaigns and you have few campaigns and a lot of ad sets there. I prefer to have more campaigns and fewer ad sets in each campaign. It helps me better organize things and have more choices of how many ad sets I'm going to be managing at the same time. There's actually a practical component to that, that when you're showing many ad sets at the same time in Power Editor and in Ads Manager, things slow down. So it slows down and it crashes. Power Editor crashes sometimes when you're doing stuff to too many ad sets at the same time. So that is a practical, technical aspect for why it's a smart thing to not pack too many ad sets into the same campaign.
Cool. Thank you, Thomas. All right. So I think Marie had the same question. She just asking to add the new ad. We already answered that. So this is from GP John. Hi, Thomas. What should I do to increase my ROAS? Currently, my average ROAS is dropping below 2.0 for a few days. I have killed some of the ad sets that are not performing with ROAS below 1.3 because that's the break-even point. Do you think I should relaunch the lookalikes for view content and optimize for ATC? That's one question. Should I do retargeting for video views because current ads video view are 97,000? He's using Shoelace for retargeting and getting a 2.12 ROAS. His current Trackify pixels for product A, He's got 10,000 view contents, 1,000 ATCs, and about 500 purchases.
Okay. Yeah, okay. So let's see, it's a very abstract question like this. I would almost prefer if you're willing to share either by way of screen captures or actually sharing the screen live to do that later and review this thing. So just a couple of comments. Number one, I would be suspicious of the ROAS of 2.12 that Shoelace is reporting because let me ask a question there. Shoelace, I'm assuming, is running ads in a separate account, separate from your main account. Is that correct? Just put a little response to that, please.
Yes, he says yes.
Okay, they're running in a separate account. That means that if they're running in a separate account, that means that the reporting is possibly overlapping, right? So that means you might get reporting there for the Shoelace campaigns that also are reporting in your main Facebook account. So with that said, it's great that Shoelace has good participation on closing sales, and that's really what retargeting does. But still, overall, you have to reconcile your reporting between your main account and your Shoelace account and see if you're not actually getting more sales reported than you have in Shopify. That's quite possible when that happens. Okay, so back to the performance. So performance management, this is really more of a management question. If it's dropping, so if 2.0, seems like 2.0 is a pretty good ROAS for you, so that's desirable. And you're saying that 1.3 is your break-even point. So that is absolutely the right thing to do. Anything that is below a certain point that you set yourself, you pick whatever point that might be. I think a break-even point is a smart point to pick. So anything that is below break-even, you just reject that and manage it out of the way. And that will then, over time, increase what is working and decrease what's not working. So one model that I have adopted recently is that I look at my ads, at my ad accounts every day about midday, and then I go through and I relaunch or duplicate. I want to call it relaunch because duplicate sounds a little bit strange. I relaunch new ad sets of the same type that are performing best. So basically, I go through my accounts, I look at the top performing ad sets, I identify them, then I go into Power Editor, I select them, and I duplicate them by the same method that we are showing in the ads duplication video. So I duplicate them and launch them into a new campaign, possibly with a higher budget than what is currently working, and possibly with quite a bit higher budget, okay? So if they're working today, they're showing today's results are really good, then I just relaunch them again and add to that. So rather than pushing budgets by changing the budget on the ad set, I duplicate them in the middle of the day or in the middle of the afternoon and launch them again. Now, what happens there is something very interesting. When you're launching an ad set in the middle of the day, Facebook appropriates or prorates the daily budget that is left for that part of the day that is still ahead of you, right? So if you have an ad set at $100 and you launch that in the middle of the day, Facebook will set aside only $50 of ad spend for that campaign. So let's say one of those is doing really well. It's been spending $50. It spent $50 to a point in the middle of the day, and you really like the results from that particular audience, from that particular ad set. So then what I do is I will double the budget when I relaunch it, right? Because now, let's say now I relaunch it at $200, which means it's going to add another $100 to the rest of the day. but it won't spend it right away, right? It'll distribute it organically according to the pacing for the rest of the day. And that's exactly what you want. So that way you push more budget into the same ad set while not needing to touch the budget setting on the existing ad set. But when you do that, always duplicate these ad sets into new campaigns, like I said before. So don't just duplicate them and add them to the same campaign. Duplicate them into a new campaign. Works better. Another way to go higher on the budget without taking so much perceived risk is to just go and create another CASA out of this, right? Another CASA 6.2 or another CASA 6.1. And so how do you do that? Well, let's say one of the ad sets are performing really well. You go in there and you do the same as what I said just now. You duplicate that into a new campaign, and then you duplicate that ad set 5 more times, just like you do when you're setting up a brand new CASA 6.2, right? And then again, you have already 6 times as much budget right there. So if you launch that in the middle of the day, you've added quite a bit of budget, to the remaining part of the day, and that's a good thing to do. So then that way you can just leave the budget setting the same as you had before, because now you're launching the same ad that is already successful. You're launching the same thing 6 more times. So you actually have 6 times the budget, but because it's in the middle of the day, so 3 times the budget is now available to spend on top of the original ad set for the rest of the day. So that's a great scaling method that kind of takes advantage of momentum that is happening in a good day when a good day is going.
Thomas, a quick question on that. When you're duplicating, so let's say you're duplicating an ad set, a single ad set into a new campaign.
Yeah.
Would you duplicate multiple different ad sets and different campaigns into that same campaign, or does each ad set have its own campaign?
That's a little bit more complicated. So if you have a bunch of ad sets that are doing well from different campaigns,
right,
you can combine them into a new campaign. I usually don't like doing that much because it violates my audience management criteria. So audience management is a very complicated subject that is very poorly supported by Facebook's own tools and by any tools that I know. So one of the things that we're working on with our developers is doing something for that, making something that makes audience management easier. Audience management is important because to some degree you have to avoid audience overlap. Now, audience overlap does not happen when you launch multiple ad sets in the same campaign and they all go to the same audience, but the budget is so much lower than the audience size warrants. That is not a problem. What is a problem is if you don't control which levels of retargeting goes to which audiences. So in a very simplified example, if you have an audience and now a portion of that clicks your links and has a view content event, when you then set up a retargeting campaign to only the people who click the view content event, that means that audience of view content people is completely a subset of the larger audience that was originally targeted, right? So that means that the original audience is completely covering up the retargeting audience that is a subset of that, right? So that is bad. This will always lead to difficulties in getting distribution on the retargeting campaign. Okay, so because of that, you always want to do things like excluding people who have already taken a certain action from the original campaign. So you should do that right from the beginning, okay?
Yep.
So from the beginning, create an audience of view content people and exclude that audience from the original ads because you're going to want to retarget, okay? So that's just a simple example, right? That's an easy way to exclude that. But so because of that, once I'm kind of getting more elaborate in my scaling and I have lookalike audiences in one campaign and interest-based audiences in another campaign and different types of lookalike audiences in another campaign and possibly different countries in another campaign, now I'm going to collect, different ad sets out of these different campaigns. I gather them up and bring them into one new campaign. Now I have a big mess, right? Because that campaign now has a hodgepodge of different target audiences in it, and I have no accountability, no idea which audience comes from where and which audience in which campaign is overlapping which other campaign, and so that makes it way harder to see where performance actually goes and analyze your data that way. So for that reason, mainly for that reason, I would avoid that and rather scale harder by selecting selecting ad sets. Multiple ad sets in the same campaign is okay. You can copy them together and launch a new CASA 6.2 with them or CASA 6.1 with them.
Right.
That's fine, right? Because they're already in the same group of of audiences, right?
Okay.
But if I mix it up more than that, then it confuses me.
Worry about overlap.
Kind of like, but it's just like following the lines of which campaigns works. So if I do a new CASA 6.2, what I do is, let's say, the original campaign name is whatever it is, website conversion. You put whatever you name your campaign.
Right.
But then, and you have the date, you have the launch date there from the original campaign. So when you do, when you copy the campaign, when you duplicate ad sets from this campaign for scaling purposes and relaunch it into a new campaign, I name that new campaign exactly the same name as the previous campaign, except now I put the new current date on there.
Okay.
And so that way, I can always filter things that belong together, that are the same. I can always filter that by putting a search in for the campaign name, and I'll just take the common piece of the campaign name, and then only the date is going to be different. But then all my campaigns are just going to be in one view. So I work a lot for ads management. I work a lot with filters in Ads Manager and in Power Editor, so that I can control what I'm looking at the same time. And it's very important to me that I can keep a straight mind of looking at the things that belong together by some criteria. And therefore, I pay a lot of attention to how I name my campaigns, because the campaign name is the most important way to group ad sets together and campaigns together that belong together. So I don't want to have a big mess going. I want to have campaign names very, very organized, so that I can filter campaigns that belong together and look at them at the same time.
That makes sense. Okay, I like that. Okay, cool. Thank you.
So yeah, this was kind of a long answer, but it was also a long question. Let me just see if we covered everything. So yeah, I mean, going back to the question that JP had, take down anything that performs below whatever your criteria is. Your 1.3 is a great criteria, I think, because it's a break-even point. Depending on how many ads you have performing better than that, you could even maybe raise your criteria a little bit, right? And just go manage towards where you cut down on anything that's below 1.5 or 1.7, right? If you have enough campaigns that perform good enough above whatever the criteria is, then just manage for that. You have to kind of be careful when you manage, depending on what your proportions are. If you have an average of 2.0 ROAS, that's great, right? So that means you have enough ad sets that perform better than 2.0. Otherwise, you wouldn't have that average, right? You may have quite a few ad sets that perform below that, but so then you have kind of a choice where you can set your actual line where you want to turn off things that perform worse than that, and then just use the CASA 6.2 method for increasing what's already working and adding to that.
Cool. Thank you. So Renee asks, does the scaling result in a new campaign every time, or are you adding ad sets to existing campaigns?
Yeah, I think I answered that. I never add ad sets to existing campaigns. I never do.
Let's see. Are there data points you use during testing, i.e. day one, certain metrics met, if not, kill day two?
Well, it's not that easy to say just day one, day two. It depends a lot on the budget. Once you're scaling and once you're really scaling, you might be at, scaling at $5,000 ad sets, and you set up CASA 6.2s for that. now you're getting into, some pretty serious ad spend very quickly. And so my ads management, data analysis, and scaling methods are all based on, and testing methods are all based on creating contrast between what's working and what's not working. And that contrast will help you find these criteria without predefining them, because it's going to be different for every product. So it doesn't make sense for me or for you to say, if it don't get CPM of under blah, 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 then I kill it. It totally depends. It wouldn't, a criteria like this would never be applicable to different price ranges of products. So rather than doing that, I derive my own criteria. You derive your own criteria out of the concept of creating contrasting results. And contrasting results are built into the CASA 6.2 structure. They're built into the 6th part of the structure. Because if you have 6 ad sets running that are essentially the same, and you have some that perform way better and some that perform way worse, you have a contrast there. The contrast shows you the potential of what an ad set could perform like if it was a good start, if it was performing well, right? So then you can use that as the benchmark for when you decide to kill something because it's way worse, okay? So you simply look, you can do this after like 6 hours, 12 hours, 24 hours, anytime after you launch your campaigns, you look at your ad sets and you compare them. You compare them on all metrics. You compare them on CPM, you compare them on reach, how many people have seen the ads for the same money. Essentially, these auto bid ad sets will always spend at the same pace, right? So they're very comparable. You can easily, so spend is always roughly the same, but the reach might be different. And that shows right there that you've won more auctions, more impression auctions with one ad set than with another one. Yeah. So that's the first criteria right there. That immediately also translates into the CPM, right? Because the CPM means cost per 1,000 impressions. Impression means you won an auction, right? Because if you don't win an auction, you don't pay any money. You don't pay money for participating in auctions, only for winning an auction. That means you had an impression. So cost per 1,000 impressions means simply it's the reach divided by, or the other way around. Well, you know what it is, right? Some sort of division. It's the cost per 1,000 impressions. In other words, the cost per reach. So if you had more reach for the same ad spend, the CPM is going to be lower than if you had less reach for the same ad spend. And then the next metric is the link click, or actually the CPC all, which is a good engagement metric. The next metric is the cost per link click and so forth.
Cool.
So you look at all of them and you decide by contrast. If all of a sudden, if your great performing ad set has a cost per link click of 75 cents and the dud on the ad set has already $3-4, then you can just kill that right there. It's not necessary to keep running that. And I mean, that's not after $4 of ad spend. And the $4 of ad spend can sometimes have different reasons why things aren't kicking off yet, or why data isn't collected yet, or whatever. But as soon as you spend like $20 on each ad set, you can definitely see that, see these differences and start managing for them right away.
Cool. So Chef asks, how many 95% video views is the best for retargeting? Is there a number?
Well, you can retarget right away as soon as you get any audiences in there. You're going to have a certain amount of budget allocated, and maybe the budget won't even be spendable on a too small audience. But on the other hand, I mean, video views, you get video views very quickly. So I wouldn't, I would probably wait for thousands of video views on any metric, on any of the measures, measuring points, before I actually retarget them. But you don't have to wait for them for that long before you actually create lookalike audiences, right? So, I mean, there's always like, there's kind of like a scale to that, right? the 95% video view audience is the best quality in theory, and it's even better if the video is a little bit longer, right? If you have a 3-minute video and there are 95% video viewers there, that's pretty good. But then again, 3-minute video viewers aren't that easy to get for for 95%. So that's probably going to take a little bit longer until they get there. But once you have 100, 300 of those, you can get great lookalike audiences from them, as well as using them, starting to use them for retargeting. But then on a 3-minute video, you might find that your 25% viewers are already at several thousand, whereas the 95% viewers are not that high up yet.
Yeah.
So there are many different things that you can do with these, and no real hard and fast rule about it.
All right. Leilani asks, how do we find friends of fans? That's going to be when you're creating your ads. There's a section where it says connected. I think it's connections, right? You're going to hit connections, and your page, your Facebook page will show you. Click your Facebook page, and then you say friends of whoever likes your Facebook page. I think we have that in a video somewhere. If not, I can create one for you.
Yeah, I'm sure we have it. I was just looking at that in an account, in the account that I used for the demos, and let me just pull that up real quick here.
Okay. Yeah, maybe. She also asked, on top of that, you mentioned knowing which niches are overused. Please advise. What does it mean to keep a little more time to win? What are the metrics? We'll talk more about metrics in, I think, the optimizing video. And that right, Thomas? The optimizing video, we'll talk more about the metrics.
Yeah, I mean, data analysis and managing is getting a little bit more into metrics. But I mean, niches that are overused, I don't really know what that means. I don't recall saying that there are overused niches, or that I know which niches are overused. There are only niches that are buying really well, and so those are the niches that you want to get into. I wouldn't call them overused. I mean, what does that mean, overused? Overused means there are people buying, right?
Right. That also means a lot of people are marketing. So that's, the good thing is they're buying.
Yeah, there's competition, but that's fine. I mean, don't be afraid of competition. When you use the methods that we're teaching you in enhancing your creatives, selecting better products, coming up with better product ideas, coming up with better offers, and improving your creatives, you're going to have a competitive edge. So don't be afraid of competition.
No.
Now, this here, right here, connections, is the place where you go. You can see there's Facebook pages, and there's people who like your page, and there's friends of people who like your page. So this is where to get those. And once you click either of these, you can then type your page down here. I don't want to type mine right now because then it shows you all of the pages that I have. So you click into this and you start typing a page and select the specific page. You can actually group audiences here from multiple pages together if you do it this way, if you use that. Okay, so if you have some related pages that all might be great to use, then you can do that this way. And so you cannot run an ad to friends and fans and friends of fans at the same time. You always have to put them into two different ad sets. Right. So fans of the page might be not a huge not a huge group, not a huge audience, and the friends of fans always increases kind of exponentially with the amount of fans that you have. So once you have about a few thousand fans on your page, you will see that the friends of fans audience is growing by a bunch. And then once you have tens of thousands of fans on a page, the audiences will just be huge.
All right. Her next one is having run the first test on WC purchase, when would you then add the PPE and the VV?
Okay, so that's a good question. There's not really a firm rule about first and second on those. If you have a video view, if you have a video, you can run video view campaigns right away, and always keep them at a certain budget level relative to the purchase campaigns. Okay, so you can run them as soon as you see that, oh, there's actually it's going pretty well and it looks really good. You can start warming up additional audiences with video view campaigns on videos and with PPE campaigns on photo posts. And I would usually use a budget on those that are lower than the budgets that you're using on the purchase campaigns.
Yeah,
So
I run mine simultaneous.
Yeah, there you go. Right.
You could do like $5. Like if you're doing $10 purchases, then I would do a $5 PPE or video view, or $7, something like that. The main reason I do the PPEs on my image posts is you want to get traction on your ad. You want to get people to like, share, comment, because
Right.
that
Get social proof on the post.
Right, exactly. And you can run them simultaneously.
Mm-hmm. Yes, that works really good.
How do you build a pixel in a general store? Do custom conversions work for this purpose?
Yes, they do, but custom conversions. Okay, so there are two parts to that question, right? So the way that the data builds on the pixel has nothing to do with custom conversions. But custom conversions can be useful for filtering certain types of conversions out of the entire amount of conversions, right? So that means if you have a pixel that has a certain, bandwidth of different niches and different demographics, but you have a lot of conversions for one particular product or one particular niche, then you can create a custom conversion for that particular product or that particular niche to then optimize a specific campaign or ad set for just that subset of conversions that are coming in on the overall pixel data. Okay, so it's kind of like, what's a good image for that? It's kind of like, well, if you gather all of the data, then optimizing for all of the data works worse than optimizing just for a specific data. But the caveat to that is that if you want to optimize for specific data, as you can with the custom conversions, you need to have enough conversions coming in on an ongoing basis that fits the filter. Otherwise, that conversion mechanism doesn't work well enough because it doesn't have momentum. Okay, so it's kind of like there's a bit of a trade-off of what you have and what works best, and it might not be in alignment. So a lot of times it's better to work with what you have and take slightly less effective optimization than to try and optimize for something that in theory would work better if you only had enough data for that filter, but you don't. So it's like, you have to start somewhere. So you just build, and once you scale, then you can switch over to the custom conversion once you see that, oh, I have a lot of data coming in there right now, and there's a lot of ongoing conversions happening. So now it's worth optimizing for the custom conversion. That's actually a trick that I use with one-on-one clients a lot. If they already have good results and they have their good results based on some sort of general optimization, that can be, and I'm being vague on that because it can actually apply on many different levels. So if someone has a general store and they have good results with a general pixel, then you can refine the general results to a niche specific result. If you have a niche specific store and someone sells different product types, then you can and they have good results on a general product event optimization, then you can refine the results for the best-selling product type by creating a custom conversion just for these products that meet that criteria. Again, as long as they have many results based on the product types. Even if you have just like a single product store and you have different bundles or different packages, you can optimize and improve the results by creating a custom conversion for the best-selling package or the best-selling single product. So it's really a matter of improving something that's already working. For that purpose, custom conversions are really great. But gathering data on a pixel is always going to happen on the entire, on anything that fires, right? So it's a filter. Custom conversions are a filter that happens after the data is collected. So if you want to build up a pixel with more specific, niche-specific or product-specific data in a general store, then I would rather do this with multiple pixels for the same store and manage them in such a way that you advertise from one account to one niche and fire that pixel for those products, and from another account to another niche and fire that pixel only for those products. That's better than custom conversions, because that way the data that you gather into each pixel is pure and lean and clean of all of the other demographics and things that could flow into them. This feels rather an advanced question again. So let's see if we can dig for a little bit more, beginner level, beginners, not confusing beginners type questions.
All right, so we'll skip. Somebody asked about UTM tags. Do you want? I think that's a little bit advanced. You want to take that?
Okay, let's see here. How do you manage UTM tags for duplicated campaigns? Yeah, UTM tags are a pain to manage. I actually put UTM tags into the Facebook ads. I didn't really talk about that in here, but let's just take a quick look at this. So on the ad level, right, when you have, I don't have anything here, it's strange. Oh, I know, hang on. How did that happen? So I see what it is. Hang on, I'll go to the sample campaign again.
All right, I'll take this one here. Could you please explain the process of determining a winner or loser in the launch CASA 6.2 or any campaign in general? We're gonna go over that, Laxman, in the optimization and data analysis. But typically, if you're making money, if you got a good ROAS, which is your return on ad spend, like you've got 2, 3, 4 on your up to 8, 10, 12, whatever on your ROAS, then that would be a very potential winner there. That's how you.
Yeah, I mean the process is actually very simple, because, like I explained earlier in this call, the sixth part of the structure of CASA 6.2 always creates contrast for you, and it shows you something that is working better than something else. And so you always manage to increase what's working better and decrease what's working worse. It's very simple. It's a very simple process. The only question is, of course, what do I do if nothing's working? Well, then you go back to square one and you pick another product and you pay more attention to increasing and creating better creatives and better offers, right? So if nothing is working, then that means your offer, your product selection has to be tweaked and improved. But again, it's it shows you what's working better, what's working worse, and then you have something to go by where it tells you what you need to improve. What was I going to show you? Yes,
UTM, something with UTMs.
The UTM tags. So right here in the ads, there is a place right here where it says URL parameters. And this would be a place where you put UTM tags that show you specifically for each ad set and ad where the traffic is coming from. So if you're using UTM tags to show you, where traffic is coming from campaigns, you want to put the UTM tags right here. Okay. Now there's a connection between this and the topic that we were talking about yesterday in the Q&A about using link shorteners. Because, for example, Google link shortener, URL shortener, does not push through the UTM tags or any parameters that you put into this field here. And I don't think Bitly does either. I'm not quite sure about Bitly at this point, but so, you know, so these the parameters that you put here. So let's say you put UTM source equals Facebook. Let's just say you put that in here, or Facebook ads, not course source. What am I doing here? Okay, so let's say you put that in here. Then this tag would be appended to the URL that's here. But if you're using a link shortener, then you have to check if the link shortener will actually put this through to the landing page. If it doesn't, then it doesn't do you any good to put anything in here, which is kind of why we've sort of escaped talking about this, because we don't really have a clear direction. A lot of people use link shorteners for this here, and then this is irrelevant. If you use direct links, then it is relevant. So it's kind of a separate topic. So let me record a separate bonus video for that, and I promised the connection with the Red Retarget Links app anyway. So it's part of that really where we should address this question.
Cool. All right, Leilani asks, okay, I'm not really quite sure what she means by this, but can you demonstrate how you find the components of an LLA, the lookalike? I don't know.
Let's think about what she means by that. Components of an LLA. You mean like going through a lookalike audience and look at what demographic portions are in there? Is that what you mean?
She says yes.
Okay, right. Okay, well, yeah, that would be an interesting study material. So it's actually, let me just do it on this audience, even though it's not a lookalike audience, but you can also do it on this audience. So these are all the same, right? The audiences are defined on the ad set level. So I can go in here and take a look at the audiences. And what I have here is I had put a bunch of Second Amendment interests into this audience here. You can see they're all, you know, different sizes. And this is interesting too. You know, 3 million here, 9 million here, 5 million here, 1.5 million here, but then together they're only 2.3 million people. And in part, that comes from me having restricted the demographics here. So this is what you can do. You can make this wide open. Let's just go for 18 to 65. And you can see now there are 9.1 million people in here, right? So 9.1 million people are in these audiences combined. Once they're combined, there are 9.1 million people. And this process is exactly the same when I analyze lookalike audiences, but you can also do it with interest-based audiences. And so basically you step your way through the different criteria here for demographics in the demographics section, ages and gender mainly. And you take a look at this, at how much of the total audience size is left when you single criteria out. So if you single out the men, the 9.1 reduces to 6.6. So that means 2/3 of these audiences that are combined to 9.1 million, about 2/3 of them, or more than 2/3 of them, are men, right? That means the rest of them must be women. So that means must be right around, 2.5 million. Okay? So there's always, with gender, it's kind of funny, there's always an unknown section, right? So the unknown section, you can only address that if you keep it on all. But other than that, the men and women are split like this. Now within the man, you can see, okay, let's kind of see through this here. How many are under 30, okay? So 18 to 29, all right, 1.8 million people. Wow, that's a lot, right? So let's see how this turns out with the really young crowd here. So really young ones are not that many. Under 21 are 200,000, right? We had 1.8 or 1.9 there, so 200 to 300,000. But still, between 21 and under 30, you have 1.6 million. That's a pretty big crowd, I would say. You know, so let's kind of step it up to where the age boundaries that are given by Facebook. And it always kind of works in 234, and then it goes from 35 to 44, and then from 45 to 54. So if you're going to kind of get in sync with that, I have 2.3 million men between the ages of 21 and 34. Okay. So if you had, now you can do this with any audience, right? You can do this with, well, you can't do it with audiences that are too small. But the cool thing about that, about lookalike audiences, is that the demographics of a lookalike audience are always modeled exactly according to the demographic makeup of the base audience. They're always an exact model. Okay, so that means if you have whatever your base audience is, if you have predominantly women between 25 and 44 in that base audience, then you will find that your lookalike audience also will be predominantly female between 25 and 34. Okay, and so then if you have, for example, if you have no buyers at all that are men, you will not have any buyers, or you will not have any men in the lookalike audience either. That is built on that buyer audience, right? So the definition of lookalike audience, I think I mentioned that in the scaling webinar. The definition of lookalike audience is that it's the however much percent of the population in the country that you select that is most similar to the base audience. And that similarity is defined as by the criteria of primarily demographics, but then also buying behavior strongly and somewhat interest. Those are the three big groups there. Now, you can even put things in there like, well, languages, you could do that, but you could do, no, you can't do that. So, but when you are analyzing audiences, so lookalike audiences that you may have in here, right? The lookalike audiences are going to be selected here. So if you're doing this on a lookalike audience, you can then refine your demographic metrics by selecting, live events, for example, here, right? So in this particular case, you could narrow down your audience, and let's just say parents. It's very unrelated, but that's my purpose. That's on purpose, right? So let's see how many parents with teenagers. How many? This is interesting, right? Might be an interesting actual sociographic analysis, right? So parents with teenagers between 13 and 18 who also like these things here. Now you have, of course, very few parents with teenagers that are themselves 21 to 34. I think that's sort of is wrong with this one, right? But if you expand this age range here to a range where parents might be prevalent, realistically prevalent, then you see that, oh, so this is pretty interesting. So if I had a shirt like dads with beautiful daughters kill, not guns kill, that might be a nice narrowing down of this target audience, right? So this, if I narrowed it down to these 500,000 people, that might be a really cool way to target in favor of that one shirt that I was using in this example. And you can switch over, you can look at the women. So women are 210, so 210,000. That's still kind of the same proportion as without this additional parent criteria in there, right? So that's pretty interesting. Anyway, so there's a lot of things that you can do. So this is how you can kind of scan your way through the demographics of your lookalike audience and kind of analyze it this way. On a lookalike audience, so the cool thing about a lookalike audience is that it doesn't matter that much, right? And so it kind of goes to show that you don't have to worry about demographics if you're working with lookalike audiences, because the lookalike audiences are already shaped by the demographics that are gathered by the base audiences. And so that's kind of cool, kind of saves you some work there. So I hope this makes a little bit of sense there.
Yeah, thank you. All right, Chef asks, are you finding it takes many hours or even 24 hours for a new campaign or ad to be approved?
No, never.
Yeah, what does that mean if it's taking that long? I don't know.
Well, it means that something is wrong. I mean, there's sometimes are times when Facebook is backed up in approving stuff, but it usually kind of means there's something buggy, or audiences. Approval of ads tend to take a little bit longer if you're advertising in a notorious niche. So if you're advertising in the health and fitness niche, or trying to advertise supplements or nutritional stuff. Those are notorious niches that are, Facebook can figure out if you're targeting that, and then they'll take a little bit longer to approve those ads. But typically, I mean, in normal niches, it takes minutes for ads.
Like 10 minutes max,
yeah,
10, 20 usually.
Mm-hmm.
All right. GP John asks, how do you duplicate to a different campaign? Usually when we duplicate, it's in the same campaign. Okay.
Well, that's when you have an ad set here, it's shown in the video, but I can just show it really easily here. So let's say you have a Casa 6.2 demo. So if I wanted to launch something into a new campaign, let's say this ad set here is great. I just click it. I'm in Power Editor, right? I'm always doing the duplication stuff in Power Editor. So go to duplicate. And then right here, you say new campaign. So I'm going to go for a new campaign. Original campaign puts it into the same campaign where it is right now. Existing campaign lets you choose other campaigns that also are there. And new campaign lets you create a brand new one. So this is what I would normally do. I would just put that. I would put today's date on the end of the campaign, and there you go. Now here's an additional thing that you have to kind of watch out for. You can, for the most part, there are restrictions on what you can choose for an objective of a new campaign that you're copying existing ads and ad sets into. Okay, and that's unfortunate, but it is what it is. So you cannot easily copy an ad set from a conversion campaign into a video view campaign, or vice versa. Actually, I don't know if it works this way. I've never tried this way. Usually I try to do the other way. When I start with a video view campaign and I want to copy it into a website conversion campaign, and that usually doesn't work. So let's just see if this one works, or if it gives you errors right away. Well, this one won't work because there's no video there. That will give you warnings because it doesn't have video. So that wasn't a smart test. But so let's try another test. Let's test this one. Let's say I want to duplicate it into a new campaign, and I'm going to want to make that a PPE campaign because it's a photo post. That should work. So I choose page post engagement here, post engagement here, and that should actually work. Oh, it doesn't work either. So it's can't use selected optimization goal for your campaign objective. Pre-select a different goal or edit your campaign. So yeah, so as I said, it doesn't work. Or edit your campaign. Well, let's see if we can edit the. But yeah, okay. So I mean, we don't need to go through this right now. So the problem here is that the goal that I had set here for the optimization in the ad set is now kind of going into nirvana, into nowhere land, right? Because the campaign now doesn't optimize for website conversion. Therefore, the website optimization object that I had selected in this ad set, in the original ad set, right at the top of this ad set here, there's purchase selected here. So because this is now no longer valid under the new campaign objective, it doesn't let me copy this ad set into this campaign.
All right. Thank you, Thomas. Sam's asking, okay, or he's saying, yeah, I was wondering how we name campaigns and ad sets. If possible, Thomas, could we have a short video on naming sections of a campaign and ad sets and ads? I mean,
yeah, well, ad sets and ads, I always name them according to the Casa 6.2 video that I showed you, right? So when you have whatever you have here, you just use this, and you use the merge fields here to name your ad sets, and then you do the same thing on the ad level and name the ad set way. So therefore, I always only ever worry about what to name my campaigns. And on the campaign level, just to review this here real quick, on the campaign level, I like to have what I call reserved name tags.
Okay.
So these are combinations of letters that I set aside for creating new campaigns. So I'm just going to make a few here for specific examples. So this here might be campaign 1, 12, campaign 1, and this is going to be a video view campaign, video view optimized campaign. Oops. Yeah. So I put VV in front of there, VV, okay? So VV, that I'm going to select video view campaign, okay? And I'm just going to create the campaign only here for now, so that we have a list of typical names that I choose here. Then I can duplicate that, and well, no duplication. It's not a good. Yeah, okay. So here, sure. And I can do website conversion, and that's going to be this objective. Right. So good. And then, whoops, I don't want to do all this right now. That's going to get me in trouble. And then I can duplicate this again. And let's say, no, so now this time I want to choose, oh yeah, so duplication has limitations. So I don't duplicate all the time. Sometimes you have to just create a new campaign. So in this case, I'm going to create a PPE campaign. That's going to be campaign 3, whatever, and here's the date. And in the beginning, I put PPE on the PPE campaign. So PPE is another reserved name tag right here, right? And another one then is, so a tricky one is anything that has retargeting in it, because there are different ones there, because here's what happens when you set up a real product catalog DPA type campaign. Then I'm going to call that DPA campaign 4 with the date. So that would be that reserved name tag right there. And on another one that is maybe a manual retargeting ad, as in I'm not using a catalog feed, so they're not going to be dynamic, then I'm going to name that campaign RET for retargeting. So now the tricky part about using these reserved name tags, and that's the reason why I call them reserved name tags, is that you have to be careful not to ever use these little letter combinations here, these name tags, in any other context in the campaign name, right? So that means if you're setting aside, let me actually do the next one. So if I want to do a conversion campaign, but it's a retargeting campaign, it's a manual retargeting campaign, I use RET. You could also say, well, I'm just going to use RTG for that or whatever, right? You can do this any way you want, but this is how I do it. So I use it like this. And so even though this is a website conversion campaign, I'm not naming this WC because I want to make sure that I have segmented that and classified that as a retargeting campaign that doesn't go to a cold audience, but rather it goes to an audience, let's say a video view audience. Okay, so now what you have to be careful with is that you never ever name a campaign, for example, campaign, WC campaign look-alike VV, meaning you're doing a look-alike audience for video views. So if you do that, then all of a sudden you have VV inside there somewhere later on, and that's going to confuse any filters. But see, so the way that I use the filters here, actually filters is, I actually use search, but it's still a filter. You do by campaign name, and you go, show me only the ones that are video view campaigns, and bam. So now if you have a bunch of video view campaigns and also a bunch of website conversion campaigns, then this shows you only the video view campaigns. And if you then click through to the ad sets, it'll show you only the ad sets that are inside those video view campaigns, because this filter criteria or the search criteria here stays with the view unless you disable it, unless you click it off, right? So you can go through the ads and the ad sets by one campaign type, by one campaign optimization type, very easily if you organize your naming scheme this way. And you can edit this here and change it and go to analyze the campaigns that have website conversion in them, in the campaign name, you see. And again, you have all the ad sets and ads accessible that are part of these there. And then you can also turn this around and show only the ones that don't have that criteria. You get all these, and then you get all the ad sets that have all these criteria, and so forth. All right. So this is just to kind of demo the purpose of having these reserved name tags there again.
Cool. All right. Good.
It really helps. It really helps to structure your campaigns with these reserved name tags, as I call them, as well as structuring them by having the date in there. That's that together. These two pieces are if they're in the campaign name and it's consistent, it's going to be a huge help in your campaign management. And then anything in between there, you can name it whatever you want, as long as you give me my name tag. And you have to, so the condition of the name tags is not only can you not use any of the name tags for some other purposes in the campaign name, but you also, the other condition is you have to use at least one of the name tags. Otherwise, there are too many campaigns that are floating around that are, who knows what that is. So you have to make it so that you use one of the name tags at least.
Gotcha.
Okay.
So Cheryl asks, what metrics do you determine what metrics to determine the startup lookalike audience scaling, e.g. after how? So I think she's asking how many purchases or ATCs
or. Well, this is very simple. So lookalike audiences can be built based on any base audiences that have at least 100 people in there that are in the same country. Now, the country aspect is interesting because you can build lookalike audiences from different countries, or for different countries, I should say, of custom audiences or base audiences that are from a different country than the target country for the lookalike audience. However, you have to have at least 100 people in one country within the base audience. Okay, so if you're doing some sort of funky targeting across multiple countries, and now you have 200 people in your custom audience, but no 100 people are in the same country within those 200 people, then you can't build any lookalike audience that is effective from that. Right? But once you have 100 people in one country within the custom audience, it works. Now, don't confuse events, pixel events, with people on audiences. Pixel events are events, right? That means that the same person can fire the same event multiple times. And that means that you have a larger event count. Typically, you have a larger event count than you have an audience count. There are also some other limitations, just besides the same people firing the event multiple times. There's also some limitations on who Facebook can put on a custom audience. Facebook has to be able to identify an audience member as Facebook user. Otherwise, they cannot end up on a custom audience, right? So if your Facebook event is triggered by someone who cannot be identified as a Facebook user because they're not logged in to Facebook at the time that they're triggering the Facebook Pixel event, then Facebook cannot add them to the custom audience, even though they have fired the Facebook Pixel, okay, the Facebook Pixel event. So because of that, those are the two main reasons why typically audiences, custom audiences, build more slowly than you see events firing, in whatever dimension, wherever you're looking, whatever reporting scheme you're looking for, events firing. But so coming back to when is a custom audience a good base audience to use for a lookalike audience? Well, so the minimum requirement is 100 people. To me, when they're starting to work better, so when they really should start using them, is 300. So 300 is, to me, is a good benchmark for when you should really start using your lookalike audiences, using your base audience for lookalike audiences, right? So, and obviously there's a drop off, right? So you're going to have view content events build much faster than add to cart events, and add to cart events will build faster than purchase events. So because of that, you can always start by whatever you have enough of. You start by using that for the lookalike audiences. And again, it's similar to what I said about the custom conversions. It might be more desirable to have a lookalike audience based on purchase, but if you don't have enough purchase events, then you just got to go with add to cart. And if you don't have enough add to cart, then you got to go with a view content. And in terms of building lookalike audiences, that is, how you should use it. That's why in Trackify, just as a short aside, in Trackify we have these kind of traffic light signals, right, where an audience turns green when they have 300, or an event turns green when it has 300 event fires, and it turns yellow when it has 100, and then over green it's green, over 300 it's green, and when it's under 100 it's red, meaning you can't really use it yet with under 100. And there's, and again, that is an example for, these are event counts, not people counts. So it can happen that an audience that is shows yellow in Trackify, meaning it's between 100 and 300, but it shows still below 100 in the custom audience that you built based on that event. So, so you start using them whenever they have over 300 people in that event, in the base audience, and then you build the lookalike audiences off of that and start running campaigns to those. Now, one thing about the percentages of lookalike audience, right? Remember the definition, 1% is the 1% of people in that country that you build a lookalike audience for that is most similar to the base audience. Well, it can be that particularly in like really highly competitive times like the holiday season, that the 1% of people that are most similar are, for some strange reason, most similar to many different base audiences. And so that means that the 1% of people in the country are kind of getting over-targeted. So it's like the 1% people that have a commonality, or that, well, they're all on Facebook, right? And they have to show up on Facebook to see your ads. Otherwise, they wouldn't be there. So I have a feeling that the 1% audience sometimes becomes over-targeted and gets so competitive that it gets you worse results than the 2 or 3% audience, even though that's counterintuitive. But because it's counterintuitive, that's why I'm mentioning it here, because it sometimes is better. You're better off starting with the 2 or 3% lookalike audience rather than going, okay, well, I want to have the targeting more confined and defined and more special, and that's why I start with the 1%. A lot of times that can get you worse results, and so just try it out. Try it starting with 3% right away.
Okay, a couple people are asking about when to kill a campaign. If there's no sale in 24 hours, do you kill it? Another person said,
yeah, well, no sale in 24 hours. You have a Casa 6.2 running at $20 for each ad set. That means you already have spent $120 and you have no sale. Yes, I would kill it. Yeah. There's something else wrong with that, right? I mean, you should have, if you have a successful product, here's the deal. If you have a product that will sell anything, it will have a sale in a Casa 6.2 before the day is up, almost no matter what budget you put in there. I mean, if you set up a Casa 6.2 with $1 budget for each ad set, then maybe you can prove that statement wrong. But if you have any kind of reasonable budget on there, anything in the ballpark of $10 to $20, you don't have a sale in day one on a Casa 6.2, there's something wrong with the offer of the product. Throw it out and go back to the drawing board, start over.
Okay, thank you. If I target friends of fans, I don't need to use further targeting, correct?
Well, no, that would be incorrect. I mean, friends of fans could be anyone, right? I mean, you're not required to narrow this down, but friends of fans can be a rather incoherent, unrelated bunch, right? Where friends of fans comes in handy, particularly if you have really large page audiences, is for narrowing down and improving the results on any other type of targeting. So if you have a really broad interest or a really large lookalike audience, and you narrow that down by putting on their friends or fans, what happens is that on each ad that will be displayed to these people, it will show some of their friends, at least one of their friends already likes this page. And that will contribute to, the trust. It almost looks as if their friend shared this post already and recommended it, okay? And so that's a connection between the page that you're running the post on, that you're running the ad on, and the fact that one of your friends likes it. If that's the case, your friend is going to show up there and it's going to say, your friend already likes this, or several of your friends already like this. So therefore, it's a significant improvement in trust that you can gain by that. So rather than just leaving it wide open to all friends or fans, just use it like I just said. Narrow down a larger group to only the people who can take advantage of that specific feature in the displaying of all of the ads.
Okay.
And I think that only applies to newsfeed placement. I don't think that feature exists for Instagram or for sidebar ads or for any of the other placements. By the way, I just wanted to mention we are kind of tight against the upcoming session that is supposed to be a campaign review session. So maybe we should close this Q&A sooner or later, and take a quick break, 10-minute break, and then go into the next session. And we can probably address some of these questions still in that session. All right. So let me just.
Okay.
Let me just. I'm just going to close the recording here, and then we're going to go into the campaign review session in just a few minutes. Okay. So hang on just one second. Let me just say bye-bye. So thanks a lot for this Q&A, guys. I'll see you all in the next session of Build,
Scale,
Done.
Done.
There you go. Good. Thank you.
All right, guys. We'll see you.